Welcome to the Daily Fantasy 5 for this Friday, May 24th. This is episode 94, and we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know today in the world of fantasy sports. We're going to start with Craig Biggio's son, the Mets McNiel, and Cespedes. Then we'll move over to some NFL news involving Ezekiel Elliott, and we'll talk about the NBA game last night before we break down the NFL draft of the AFC East. All right, let's do all that after a word from our sponsor, mathradio.com. Go to www.mathradio.com to pick up an online math course for your child ages 7 through 17 for only $9.99. That's not $999, that's $9.99, people. You can go there and help your kids do better in math class, help them score higher on exams, and even help them get into college. Visit www.mathradio.com today. All right, let's get started with some baseball news. Kevin Biggio is going to be called up today. He is a second baseman. He's batting 306 in AAA. He's the son of Hall of Famer Craig Biggio, and he's on the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays. He's joining Vlad Guerrero Jr. as some exciting young prospects on that team. So that might be a pickup you want to add to a regular or especially dynasty team if no one has him. Moving on, I don't like that the Mets, McNiel, has been moved to the injured list as well. He's been starting games in the outfield at third base and second base. I believe he's third in batting in the National League at 333. He also has 2 home runs and 15 RBIs. So he will no longer be able to help you out as kind of an amazing utility guy for the Mets. He joins Yoenis Cespedes on the injuries list. Cespedes finally had his ankle surgery yesterday, I believe. He is going to be done for the season. So McNiel and Cespedes are on the injured list for the Mets. Let's be done with baseball. Move over to some football news. Over the weekend, Ezekiel Elliott was involved with a security guard. Apparently, he pushed him up to a fence and eventually knocked him down. This is according to some TMZ video. Jerry Jones does not believe that Zeke will be disciplined by the league for this action in Las Vegas. Hopefully, Jerry Jones is right, and Zeke will be ready to start from day one. He won't have to sit out like he did last year. Zeke is still one of the top fantasy running backs in all of football, and you certainly wouldn't want to see him out for any games at the beginning of the season like happened last year. All right. The NBA last night, complete and utter just madness. I thought for sure the Milwaukee would pull this game out. In the first quarter, they were up by 12. I thought things were going to be just fine. As you know, we took the adjusted line last night. I thought that looked good as well. And then things just unraveled. And the Raptors somehow beat the Bucks to pull ahead in the series 3-2. This is bad for us. We are only up 1 unit now in the playoffs, and our series bet does not look good either. So yikes to the NBA. Let's stop talking about the NBA and fantasy sports and move on to the NFL draft. Today, we are talking about the AFC East division, and we're going to be doing a draft recap for all of those teams, starting with worst and going up to our favorite. So my least favorite draft of the NFC East was the New York Jets. So last year, the Jets were 4-12. DVOA, they were 29th on offense and 21st on defense. I really enjoyed their first 2 picks. Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. I think that's a great pick at number 3 overall. He might be the best player in this draft, and he should certainly boost the defense that finished 21st despite having some pretty decent talent. He's going to be an absolute disruptor in the middle of that defensive line. And then Jaleel Polite, defensive end out of Florida. I think he's a great pass rusher as well. They got him all the way in the 3rd round. They didn't have a 2nd round pick this year. I think that's a great pick. I think he's a 2nd round or even late 1st round value. Seems like an excellent pass rusher. Should fit in very well on that revamped defensive line. So if you've noticed, we're all the way into deep in the 3rd round here, and we don't have an offensive player to add to the 29th ranked offense from last year. Not good. So they do take an offensive tackle, Chuma Edogo, out of USC. He might start at guard in year 1. Certainly won't be ready to start as tackle. This is, a decent pick for them. And then in the 4th round, they took tight end Trayvon Wesco out of West Virginia. He's 6'4", 267, a decent blocker, but he's not a big play threat at all. Maybe he can make some catches for you to move the chains, but maybe more of a blocking tight end than a pass catcher, at least for any big plays. In the 5th round, they took a linebacker and then a cornerback. So if you notice, they only took 2 offensive players, and they were in rounds 3 and 4. Again, this team was 29th in offense last year. Now, obviously, they had a rookie quarterback, and things should improve, but man, this is just really questionable for a team that needed offensive help. I have them ranked 4th. Obviously, they brought in some free agents, Le'Veon Bell and some others to help out the offense. But man, I just don't love this draft for them. So I like the two top players on defense. Their defensive line should be great. Should be a decent fantasy defense. I think they'll rack up a lot of sacks and interceptions, but I don't know. I just didn't like this draft that much. Okay, let's move on to my third team in the AFC East, and that is the New England Patriots. So I actually really liked this draft. I thought they did really well. I just thought the Bills and the Dolphins had better drafts for what they needed. The Patriots went into this draft, I think, with 12 picks. They came out of it with 10. They were 11-5 last year. They were fifth rated DVOA on offense and 16th on defense. So what did the Patriots do? Well, we know they needed wide receiver and tight end help. They did not get any tight end help, but they did pick up N'Keal Harry in the first round, the last pick of the first round, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Bill Belichick, if there is any weakness in his game, it is picking wide receivers. He has not drafted them very well. Hopefully, N'Keal Harry can step it up and be a quality wide receiver for the Patriots. Who else did they pick? In the second round, they took a quarterback out of Vanderbilt named Jaquin Williams. He, according to all the services, looks like a very, very decent cornerback and should help out that secondary. That should remain strong, the strength of their defense. Defensive end in the third round, they had 3 third-round picks. They took defensive end Michigan Chase Winovich. He was a nasty player coming off the edge, and he's got beautiful, long blonde hair. You got to like that as well. Their second third-round pick, they took running back out of Alabama, Damian Harris. He was a all-around workhorse. He kind of did it all, and that might be what the Patriots need this year. They've got the home run hitter. They took a running back in the first round last year, but if he doesn't work out, Damian Harris is some nice insurance. And then they took Yadni Kajust, offensive tackle out of West Virginia. There's a lot of draft experts out there that like Kajust. I think he should have been a second-round pick. The Patriots seem to do a really nice job developing offensive linemen. I think this is a nice player to put into their system, along with fourth-round pick Froholt, guard out of Arkansas. That's 2 players to add to that offensive line group to help them improve, and they are getting a first-round offensive tackle back from last year as well. Then in the fourth round, they took quarterback Jarrett Stidham out of Auburn. I guess he's the new Jimmy Garoppolo. He's the new, quarterback of the future. The site I depend on most for my draft analysis had Jarrett Stidham as a second-round value. So I guess that's nice value here in the fourth round for the New England Patriots. I certainly don't mind them taking a developmental quarterback in the fourth round, maybe in 1 or 2 years when Tom Brady might be done. You've got a quarterback sitting there waiting, or you just trade him for a second or first-round pick a couple years down the road, and you draft somebody new. That seems to be the Patriot way. All right. In the fifth round, they took a defensive tackle, Coward out of Maryland, and then they took a punter. Yeah, they took a punter. Maybe that single-handedly dropped them to number 3. In the seventh round, they took a cornerback. I guess the 2 things I really didn't like were them taking a punter. The Patriots don't need to punt. And then they did not grab a tight end in this draft. So I would have liked to seen them taking a developmental tight end. Some of these other teams in the division took tight ends. I would have liked to seen them grab one. Who was taken in? The Jets took Trayvon Wesco out of West Virginia in the fourth round. I'm pretty sure the Dolphins took a tight end as well, but I don't see it on my list. But anyway, there were certainly tight ends available. They could have traded up, or they could have just stayed at 5 and took a developmental guy. So I didn't like the punter pick, and I did not like that they didn't get a tight end in general. Everything else was pretty good for the Patriots. Lots of dart throws. Hopefully some of these players will stick for Patriots' sake. All right, let's move over to my second favorite draft, which was the Miami Dolphins. Now, somehow the Dolphins were 7-9 last year. I don't know how this happened. Their Pythagorean win percentage, or whatever that's called, had them only getting 5 wins. So they were projected only to win 5 games based on their statistics last year, but they won 7. Pretty crazy. Their offensive DVOA was 26. Defense was 25. That is pretty awful. For example, the Jets were 29th and 21st, and they only had 4 wins. Somehow the Dolphins ended up with 7. So what did they do in the draft that I like so much? Well, in the first round, they went with Christian Wilkinson. I think he was the best player on the board. Defensive tackle out of Clemson. Very, very nice pick. Well, actually, I think I like Burns out of Florida State better, but still, great pick. Should provide some pressure out of defensive tackle or even off the edge. I like that pick for them. Should help the defense, especially with the run stuffing. In the second round, I love what they did here. They traded down from 48 to 62, also giving up their 4th-round pick this year. But they pick up an extra 6th-round pick and a 2020 second-round pick, add more ammunition for next year, and they move back to 62. I think that's a great deal from them, especially since they used that 62nd round pick. I'm sorry, 62nd round, the 62nd overall pick to trade for Josh Rosen from the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is just amazing strategy and amazing plan here. So this year, you go into the season without much hope, right? This Dolphins team should not be very good. So what you do is you go ahead and run Josh Rosen out there. If he is good, fantastic. You just got your starting quarterback of the future for a second round pick that you traded down to get. If he's not that good, well, so what? You took a shot and you got all these extra assets, including that next, the 2020 second round pick, to go up and move up if you have to get whatever quarterback. Maybe it's Tua. Who knows who the quarterback is going to be next year, but you can go out and get your guy. So they have the ultimate flexibility at the only position that really matters in the NFL, quarterback. Give Rosen a chance this year and take a shot next year if you need to. Let me just go through the list. They have their own first round next year. They have 2 seconds, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sixths, and 2 sevenths, 12 picks overall already heading into the 2020 draft. So they have all the ammunition in the world to move up if they need to get that quarterback of their future, or they might already have him with Rosen. But at least now Dolphin fans have some hope at the quarterback position. And then in the third round, you back it up with guard Michael Dieter out of Wisconsin. This is exactly what the Dolphins need on the offensive line. A guy with some versatility who is a good offensive lineman. He's played center, left guard, and left tackle at Wisconsin. He should step in right and from day one and be a starter and help out that offensive line. They didn't have another pick until the 5th round. They took Andrew Van Ginkel, another Wisconsin guy. He's a linebacker, more of a developmental player. Very fast, but that's about it. In the 6th round, they took another offensive tackle. 7th round, a fullback, and a running back. So obviously, the dramatics happened at the top of this draft. I really loved Wilkins and Dieter and Josh Rosen. I think they might have added their franchise quarterback and they added more ammunition next year. I just think from a strategy standpoint, they did the best that they could for their franchise, which is why I had them all the way up at number 2, despite only drafting 6 players plus Rosen. So Miami Dolphins, number 2 for me in the AFC East. My number 1 choice were your Buffalo Bills. So Buffalo last year went 6-10. On offense, they were 31st. On defense, they were 2nd. Talk about unbalanced. And I finally found it. The number 32 team in special teams last year was the Buffalo Bills. I've been waiting to find that all series long to see who was last in special teams. Well, it was the Bills, according to DVOA. So what did the Bills do in this draft that I love so much? Well, first of all, they took one of my favorite players, maybe 3rd overall, Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston. I love this guy. He reminds me of Quinn Williams. I think he can do it all. He can rush from the inside, the outside. Defensive tackle out of Houston was an absolute beast. I believe he was rated as the number 1 player coming out of high school, and the guy is just a monster. I love this value at the Bills for number 9. Now, the problem is they needed offense, right? But I love the strategic fortitude to kind of stay to their list, right? If they had Ed Oliver as their number 1 player on their board, they're like, you know what? We're not winning the Super Bowl anyway. We don't need to pick for need. Let's take the best guy on the board. And they did that, and they didn't worry about their needs on offense. I think that was a great move. I think Ed Oliver is going to be a piece that they win with going forward. All right, should definitely keep that defense intact. Then they started moving to offense, right? They grabbed Cody Ford in the 2nd round. They had to move up 2 spots, but they only gave up a 6th rounder to do it. I think not Ed Ford. Cody Ford is a wonderful offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. He could have been taken in the 1st round very easily. Very solid pick there to help out that offensive line. Then in the 3rd round, they come back and they pick up Devin Singletary, running back out of Florida Atlantic. Now, this might seem like a luxury pick, but I don't think so. LaShawn McCoy is 31, often injured. Frank Gore is 36. And I mean, how often do 36-year-old running backs have success in the NFL? Not very often. And I love Devin Singletary the more and more I see him. The one problem with Motor, which is his nickname, is that he does not really catch passes. In 2018, he only caught 6 balls. But this running back out of Atlanta, out of Florida Atlantic, is an absolute beast. It looks like he's covered in Vaseline, which was the quote I grabbed from his tape that I just watched on YouTube. The guy is a beast. His jump cut is amazing. I think you're going to see that in the NFL this season. If there's any kind of injury at all in Buffalo, I expect Devin Singletary to step up and be a top 10 running back every week he gets to start in Buffalo. I have that much faith in this guy's running ability. I do wish he could catch the ball just a little bit, which he just doesn't do at all. which is probably why he was a third-round running back instead of a second or first. All right, later on in the third round, the Buffalo Bills selected Dawson Knox, tight end out of Ole Miss. This guy has big play potential. He can go ahead and catch the ball from Josh Allen and take it to the house. He has explosiveness, which I think is what this offense needs. I love the fact that they've gone offense with Cody Ford, Devin Singletary, and Dawson Knox. Three players that should come in and make an immediate impact for this Buffalo Bills team. In the fifth round, they take Joseph, a linebacker out of Florida. Sixth round, a safety. Seventh round, linebacker, and another tight end. So I just love what this team did. I love the first four picks. I really love Ed Oliver and Cody Ford at the top of the draft. I think Buffalo did what they needed to do, and they stuck to their guns and took the players they thought were the best at the time, which is exactly what you should be doing when you are a bottom feeder like the Buffalo Bills. Will it have a huge impact in their record this year? I'm not so sure about that, but I think down the road, this is a nice step towards the right direction of becoming a playoff football team again. So to wrap up, I have the Buffalo Bills at number 1, the Miami Dolphins at number 2, New England Patriots number 3, and the New York Jets at number 4 as far as the NFL draft went for 2019. All right, we will be back tomorrow on Saturday. We'll probably be talking some NBA, some MLB, and we will give you some more fantasy goodness. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel and give us a thumbs up. If you are listening to the podcast on Spotify or iTunes, we would love it if you give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. Please check out www.mathradio.com to pick up an online class for your child ages 7 through 17 for only $9.99. That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.